Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Living Ageless and Bold. My guest today is Bianca de la Garza. She is a 10-time Emmy nominated award-winning journalist. She has spent over 20 years with ABC and Fox, and she is currently an anchor with Newsmax. She has covered everything from global events to politics to the royals. And she did all of this while being a single mom. And now at the fabulous age of 50, she has written her first book called Incoming. And I'm really excited to chat with her today. So welcome, Bianca.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Christina. It's such a pleasure to talk about all these things that are bold and ageless. This is what we're about, right?
Isn't it? I know it's such a great time 50 is. But I mean, you've had quite a career and doing this as a single mom. So let's kind of talk about how you got started in journalism and obviously skyrocketed your way up.
Oh, thank you. Well, and I have to say, to preface all of this, you are catching me fresh off my 50th birthday. It was not that long ago where I just entered this new decade. And I do sort of feel this just hitting my stride a little bit because, all the things you talk about as women, building your career, having certain struggles or things that come forward, whether it's, the loss of, your what you thought your world would be, whether it be divorce, whether it be sort of career obstacles, health obstacles, all these things sort of shape us, right? And so when you hit 50, I'm just really loving it because I'm approaching it with like such a sense of, gratitude and having a sense of myself, which I think only time can give you and a lot of experience. And my experience has been in broadcast television, but also other different, moments of, motherhood that shapes you and just makes you stronger. But, I was a traditionally trained journalist. So journalism school, went into it, wide-eyed, really got into it to be, the voice for the voiceless. And I've always kind of kept that passion. And I still think we're doing that today. And I think modern era journalism, while there's so much independent journalism, there's also this, thirst for just that direct sort of raw storytelling. Here's this side, here's that side, you decide. And people really want to be able to make informed choices. So I just feel like the relationship now between, the host of a show and, our viewers can be even more closer and intertwined, which is amazing.
So I want to talk about that because it is, and this is so not a political show. And I always say, like, I'm in the middle, I go a little bit right, I go a little bit left, but I just think the media, and I love the media, and we talked about, I mean, I'm going to be co-hosting tomorrow. Like I love, there's so much good in the media, but then there's so much bad right now. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we have far, far, far left, far, far, far right. And there's nobody telling the stories of 99% of the population. So, and I read a lot about what you do, and I know you believe in that. Really, this let's tell the truth. Let's tell the real story.
Right.
How do you think it got so bad? And gosh, do you think we can ever get back to the way it was before?
I certainly think we have to get back to the way it was before because I think the pendulum has swung towards a place that is dark and scary and evil and violent. And after covering some, horrific events through the course of my career, 9/11, massive stories of huge, Boston Marathon bombing, terrorism, but also some joyous things in my career, whether you're covering, events that are more bringing people together and unifying. I think that we're ready to kind of, mend the fences and, it's gone too far. I love to approach things with the fact of, and like you said, it doesn't have to be below. I have interests outside of politics. Like I'm a normal human being.
You do?
That has,
really?
I can communicate with people about a whole host of other things. And so when you sit at a table and you sit across from people, I like to hear what people have to think because maybe, there's always a knowledge that you pick up and getting different perspectives and we cannot be in an echo chamber. So I love also, I think how it got so bad is maybe the corporations were just sort of, and it got so, mass media, and then the fear of sort of having people who might have an independent view, or when it came into COVID, like different people who wanted to tell you something about a vaccine. It's like, shut it down. It's like, no, we need all worlds of thought. We need people to come in. We need to have this town square. We're having it. We've had it here at Newsmax. We're sort of now the fourth largest network. We're publicly traded, but we started off really independent. And I think we just want people to have facts and make, like I said, informed decisions. But more importantly, I'm raising a daughter. She's going to be 20 and she's living in New York. I live in South Florida, which is a very different world. And I've lived all over the country. I've been fortunate. My mother was a flight attendant, so I grew up on airplanes. So I was a little girl. She'd fly to a different country and come home and make me dinner. Like, I was very, very blessed to think of the world as a different place. So I love the blend of cultures. My dad's from Mexico, was born there. I mean, I just have such an interesting world view of how things are going and how things can be together in a more harmonious way. And that's why I kind of bring to it, I think a sense of harmony, because I would never vilify anyone for disagreeing with my political viewpoint. That's just not going to get us anywhere except bring us back. And I always say this, and I think it just rings true to me. There's more things that unify us than pull us apart.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And I actually went to an event with a girlfriend the other night, and we are on slightly different sides of the aisle. We had the most amazing conversation. Yeah. And like, I said some things to her. She's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. And she said some things to me that, and my husband's like, oh, how'd that conversation go? I was like, no, it was really good. It was really, we had a great conversation. And maybe because we are old friends, we could do it. But I know with some people, it gets scary. It's like, oh, you can't.
Well, I also think there was that sense of fear of like, oh my gosh, closet, when you could suppress speech and you don't hear other sides and people who feel like a certain way. But I've sat down with people and certain things like that have come out since, October 7th in Israel. And they're like, I was afraid to sort of say these things or talk about this in a way where, I couldn't believe, certain things that were being done. Now I feel like, I had this opinion of maybe conservatives, and now I'm aligning with them on certain things. So, I mean, there is sort of a way where we can come together on, maybe not everything, but certain things, and find, common ground. I mean, I don't know. It is an interesting time. And I certainly think the media right now is going through a massive transformation.
So and again, I don't know like what it's like to be an anchor. Do you get to write your own news? Is it edited? Like when we see you on Newsmax, is this Bianca's, are you really allowed to say what you
yes,
feel?
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely control. I do 3 hours a day solo live. The real estate is, they give me, free liberty to, helpfully, book the guests that I think are, the newsmakers of the day, whether it be someone in Congress or somebody, in the community who's, dealing with a story or an issue that's important and impactful. And I think that, I do have an amazing team, producers. I mean, it does take sort of a lot of people to pull together elements, but every single day, I mean, it's not, I'm fortunate too, the hours I'm on, there's a lot of breaking news. So a lot of it is just unscripted, just go with it. There's an event here, an event there. And that it means, I'm reading a lot every single day. I'm always plugged in. I'm always, but I'm a very curious person. I've always been sort of thirsty for knowledge and a curious person. And I think, that's the one thing that makes great journalists. And I spent years in the field, so I know, when you're out there trying to gather information and you want to be first, but you want to be accurate and you want to be, so there is that balance out there. But I've been doing it for almost 30 years and I love what I do. It's really a privilege. I take it very seriously. So I'm very dedicated to my work. I'm very dedicated to my daughter. I'm also very dedicated to keeping my health, because if I don't have that sort of sharp mind, sharp body, like I can't be, fully functioning in all the capacities that I really want to do. And like I said, turning 50, it does get a little harder. You have to be a little more cognizant of how you're taking your body if you want to maintain, what you can do and be healthy for your loved ones, right?
We've had a lot of people on talking about different aspects of health as you get older, functional medicine, just, nutrition.
I love it all. Right.
It really is. And find what works for you. There is no perfect, I get frustrated with doctors, and I go to doctors, but, they're trying to put us all in the same circle in the square, or the same peg and, in the square. And we're all different. So knowing exactly, you're right. For you to be able to be on 3 hours a day, you have to be healthy. You have to eat well. Your body has to to be, optimized
It's a
to be able
non-negotiable.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
a
one thing I think that
non-negotiable.
does change as you get older. And unfortunately, maybe as I have a daughter too, who's 25, who's very healthy and I'm like, I don't think I was working out much at 25. Like,
You weren't?
no,
Oh, I was.
maybe I walked a lot. I'm a big walker. Like I would walk to campus, which everyone's like,
Right.
why are you doing that? I'm like, oh, it just
That's
makes me
so
feel
good.
good.
Walking is
So
amazing.
yeah,
Well, I think there could be there certainly is a balance. Like you don't want young women to be obsessed with anything, right? And the whole thing, we didn't grow up with social media, and it's just terrible because now people look at social media and everyone looks, in their filters, and it looks so perfect, and it's
and
so
I'm
not real.
so naive. I said to my daughter's best friend from high school, I was like, wow, Callie looks fabulous. She's like, Mom, it's a filter. I mean, Callie's beautiful anyway, but I'm like, I said, it is not. She goes, oh, yes, it is. She's like, text her and ask her. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that's
but I guess that's what they do.
And I know, Christina, like in the course of your career, and I know you've worked with the Today Show as well, and you've had a lot of interesting, like the messaging for women is so important. That isn't real, right? So when I took a break from news because it was so heavy, and I had done it for about 20 years, and then I started a beauty line because I wanted to have something that was a skin product that was natural, and I wanted women to understand that you don't have to be, put all this stuff on your face, and it was really, really fun to formulate it and to be a business owner, and women business owners, I get what it's like to kind of have to start and be entrepreneurial. But, the bigger message I think nowadays is like, you do what works for you and understand there's a lot of new stuff that's out there that can be incredible. Like that 50 really is. I mean, you say it's like the new 30. I mean, there's so much longevity stuff out there when it comes to biohacking. And I'm sure you've had all those people on your programs too. And it's like, you can really be your own health advocate. And I love that because you're right. It's knowing what works for you and tailoring what works for you, whether it be your skincare, whether it be your supplements that you take or the workouts. Like if you aren't somebody like I wouldn't, if you don't love working out, find something that's more of something that you like to do, like play tennis with a friend or go for walks or hike, because you'll do it more. And I think women have to understand too, like be a little more selfish. I think that's one thing that I was really, I think people, it's a single mom. It's hard, but you also know, like, I have to maintain my health. And if I don't, like, this isn't going to work.
It's so funny you brought up 50 is the new 30 because I'm actually writing an article. I do a lot of freelance writing now about this space. And I really thought about it and I'm like, but I don't want to be 30 again. I want to be 50. I want to be the healthy, strong. So that's the whole point of the article is no, 50 is okay. Like 50, it's fine. Yeah.
I think the longevity piece of it, right? Because sometimes when you look and you're like, is my body and I'm aging and you're like, no, you're actually you can actually be like my biological age. I am on Function Labs, which is Dr. Mark Hyman. I love this website and I love him.
We've talked about him many times.
It's incredible. So you go and you get your own labs and, it's hard to find a doctor. You can't find a doctor. You have to go see a nurse nowadays, but you can get these labs and it's not crazy expensive, which is really nice. I feel like healthcare is becoming this is more like it's like sick care. This is like longevity care, but my biological age is 50, but like my health age is like 36. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm treating my body. So I'm 12 years younger. You're right. I wouldn't want to, what I knew at 30 is like, I was like a baby then. Now it's like all that wisdom, as we were talking before we started, it really helps you sort of formulate that security you have and like walking with confidence into any situation and that you're almost unshakable. You're like, here we are. I know who I am. I'm so grounded in who I am that I can have conversations. I can take risks in, a way where I'm not worried about so much the outcome. I'm worried about having the regret of not doing it.
Yeah. And you can take failure. So I would say we fail forward. There's everybody, and I speak to college students a lot, and I'm like, you guys are going to fail. Like we all fail. Don't, again, social media, they have all these expectations. And I speak at Virginia Tech and we have a lot of students who have jobs by like October, November before they graduate, like the big four accounting firms and Wall Street. So I've got to take these kids who aren't going to get jobs until May or June. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want that job? Well, no. I'm like, okay, so let's get that out of our heads and concentrate on what you want to do. And guess what? You're going to get a no. Like our kids, my daughter's 25, they raise them with, I remember my kids did swim team And my daughter got a ribbon for like 19th place. Like, throw that away. That is the dumbest thing I have ever seen.
Yeah,
Everyone's a winner. And I always told them, I said, there are going to be 100 people who apply for a job. And guess what? Only one person gets it. So you better toughen up, Buttercup, because
life is going to come at you real fast.
Yeah.
But
that's not a bad thing. You just shift, you pivot. It's okay.
And I love what you just said, because that happened to me, where you don't want to take a job just for the sake of having a job. In fact, the first job I got when I was interviewing with somebody in Albany, New York, a man by the name of Don Decker. And I write about this in my book, Incoming, my career trajectory. But he said, well, do you have any, it was a cold call and he took the time. But he's like, do you have any jobs? And I was like, well, I was offered a producer, an overnight producer, morning reader, anchor. And he's like, well, do you want to do that? I said, no, I really want to be a reporter. He's like, don't take those jobs, because I was about to graduate. He's like, but you'll be in the producer track and you want to be a reporter out in the field track. So I said, you're right, I won't do it. And I listened to him because he was sage, he was smart. And then 2 weeks later, he called me back to Albany and he offered me a reporter job. So I think it's right. It's like, never settle. But that's like a bigger thing. And it's so hard for young women, especially. Your daughter's 25. My daughter's like, I want to watch her sort of blossom. I want her to love what she does. I do think part of when you're learning, you not only failure, but you're also going to do things and you're like, okay, I want to pivot again. And reinvention is like amazing. Don't be afraid of failure. I'd also add on to that. And don't be afraid of doing something. If you don't like it and you tried it, then move on. Like, no one says you have to do this thing and know what you're going to do. And then even if you're in a school, don't ever be afraid to make a change. I tell my daughter, I said, you're never a victim in any of this, anyone's story. You can always start over. And you could be 50 and start over. You can be 70 and start over. So I think that frees up sort of the stress about figuring it all out.
And that's when I speak to the kids, I wanted to be a lawyer. That's all I knew. That's all I wanted. I was political science and German major. I was going to go into international law. I couldn't pass it, or you don't pass it, but I couldn't get a good enough score on the LSAT. And I bombed it at least 4 times. I tried. I kept trying. And then, I go through my career with them, and then they see what I'm doing now in my 50s. Like, all my TV stuff started in my 50s. And I'm 58, almost 59. I'm like, can I really still be co-hosting? And, but yes, why not? Why not?
And at one point, I thought I wanted to do, I went to school for fashion design, and I ended up at 3 colleges, journalism. So I loved that, but I couldn't sew. And so I felt like it was not going to be authentic to me. So I put that to the side, but I still dabble. I loved interior design. So now I just do it when I'm at home, or when I'm, changing up things, or my daughter's dorm. And so you can still sort of do the things you like as hobbies on the side if they don't end up being your ultimate career path. But you're right. The perfecting the pivot is so key, because then it also lets your life be rich and textured. Like, I may have been in broadcast, but I've also, like I said, run a beauty line. I had a late night talk show. I've done other things that sort of allow me to come at stories that I tell now with a very wide net, a wide POV, that it hasn't just been one career I've been in. I've been in multiple sort of silos. And it's exciting.
You learn from everything you do. You take something away from it. Even if you hated everything you did, you didn't want to do that, but you got something out of it. You will always get something. There's going to be things you hate
too, right? And there's going to be things you hate that you just do because you have to do them. And as women, I think that is something too that's part of what we are, is caregiving and loving, and the sacrificial part of us that makes us so special and warm. And I don't think, women too, we're not men. We can be strong and soft. So we have to balance that as well, and never be afraid to be like, well, if I'm strong, then I have to be. No, you can cry. You can be a woman. You can be soft in your feminine power. You're way more powerful flexing sort of your feminine energy. It is, even in a boardroom, you don't have to come at it. Your viewpoint, your experience as a woman is going to give you a unique sort of stance and set you apart from the male philosophy. And I think I think we still have a long ways to go as far as, women in the C-suite. I love that there's more of us. But even when it comes to sort of the ceilings that are continuing to be broken, and having women, women-owned businesses supporting other women, I love that it continues to be explosive and growing in that way.
Well, I think pretty sure it was Simon Sinek who said he felt that all companies should be run by women, because of the empathy, because they're strong and smart, but they have that empathy factor that men just don't have the same.
We can multitask really well too.
Yes. Right. I remember doing things with, you're a mom, that's what you do when they're little. You don't have a choice. You're tying a shoe while you're making a lunch, while you're, the car's running, and you do what you have to do.
It's
And you're
stressful.
working at the same time.
They gear it out. I remember being on a set one time and there was a hurricane or a tornado. It was some really catastrophic storm. They said, we're going to send you after you're done with the show out to Western Massachusetts and you're going to spend the night there. We're going to have you anchor the 5 o'clock and the 11 o'clock and do your morning show live there. And I said, I will do that, but I need to leave at 7:01 when my show's off tomorrow because my daughter's graduating preschool at noon back here. So I'll go. And then I'm on the set during the commercial breaks, Christina, texting to see what babysitter can come and spend the night because I didn't have anyone to spend the night and I didn't have any family that was able to help me. So it is just when you are forced to figure things out, it's just such a resilience that, I think is, you don't wish it upon anybody, but if it happens to you and you're able to sort of be this fully aware and self-sufficient woman, it just creates so much more leverage for you later when you don't have to rely on anybody else but yourself.
And you will find as your daughter gets older, she saw that along the way.
Oh, 100%.
She will appreciate it, and it makes her a stronger woman to see what you did.
Oh, yes. And I love it because she'll do different things and I'll see her traveling and navigating airports and doing things. She'll come to meet me and, she just figures it out. One day she called me. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, Mom, I'm at the airport and I don't have my license. I don't have my ID. And I'm like, well, your flight is leaving in like an hour. She's like, I'll call you back. She got an Uber to go to her house and get the license and bring it to her. And then she ran to the gate and she was the last person on. It's like out of the movie, but she got on the plane. And I said, if you miss the flight, you miss the flight. But that sort of figuring it out and problem solving. And it's hard because I'm kind of a softie and I do want to kind of like parachute in and help her. But that's been sort of like trying to release that urge in me to always wanting to save the day, because then you kind of go, can they do it? Can they do it? And then they do. And you're so proud,
So my daughter was a freshman in high school and she played varsity volleyball. So she's hanging out with these seniors, which I was really uncomfortable with at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the girls were driving. So they went to DC one day. And when they came back, they're like, oh my gosh, Megan knew how to hail a cab, because I had taken her to New York constantly. She's like, she's the one out there getting our taxis. And I'm like, yes, my girl, she's okay. She's okay.
Well, I would think so. I mean, you're pretty, savvy and successful businesswoman. So yes, I know it's incredible to watch them kind of blossom, and it is fun. And it's also, I think the most exciting thing for me is I look back at the baby pictures, right? And I'm like, she'll never be that small again. And all those sleepless nights that you at the time you were going, oh my God, like, cause I did a morning show. I was up at 3 a.m. and now she's older. And, I just, I'm like, I get to have this girl who's now growing in and blossoming as a young woman, and she keeps me young. I get to kind of, have this experience with her, and, whether you're hearing, the movies they're talking about, the fashion, just sort of the cultural things that, she just has this sort of perspective that I feel like there's no way I'm going to be even if when I'm a granny, if, I'm never going to feel so, old, because she's keeping me young every day. And that's kind of fun too for me to realize that I can have that sort of, I gave her life. Now she's giving me life in a way that's just really,
I love that.
Young.
I'm going to have to write an article about that. That's really a great point. And we do that. We have a second home in Virginia Tech and we go to all the football games, and my daughter lives in Chicago now, and 2 of her friends were coming down and they're like, can we spend one night with you? Like, we have somewhere to stay on Friday. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I cooked them breakfast and we went out to dinner, and you're exactly right.
Yes.
It's just fun to hear, and the energy that they have, and it keeps you young. And
I think too, I had a great bond with my mother. She was a single mom too, and I was an only child. Isn't that funny how history sometimes repeats? And then my daughter's my only. She does have siblings with her dad who remarried, so I'm glad she has brothers, and that's sort of great. But she's my only, just like my mom and I were. And it's just that mother-daughter bond. It, that changes through the years, and, there's the teenage years. I mean, some of your viewers may be going through that, or maybe, I'm excited for me in my 50s to still give her some really solid, advice and still continue to teach her as I think that, you never stop teaching with your kids either. I just think that I'm in a place now where, gosh, I have to make sure that, the beacon of sort of the pillar of, she sees me working hard. She sees me taking care of myself. She sees me as somebody who can approach things with kindness and humility. But also, no shrinking violet, and I think women have to know that they can advocate for themselves in every situation. That's why when I said, you're never a victim in any story. So don't ever think that this is being done to you. You can always get up and walk away and change things. I'm not so sure in our parents' generation, our mothers had those choices. They didn't have the career choices. And I think they were told to, like, you just got to ride it out, the bad marriage, or stay with it and keep it together for the kids. And, I'm not about that with my daughter. I'm like, do something, try it. Maybe it fails. Maybe it works for a few years and then try something else. Life is too short to feel that you can't have expressive,
Options.
joy and options. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've interviewed so many women, older women that, that did get divorced in their 20s, like that are now in their 80s, and just how unheard of that was. Like women just, shattering glass ceilings back then. And I've had a couple women, Lynn Dunn, who is the general manager of the Fever, and she was not allowed to play sports in school because it was illegal for girls to play sports. Like, what? And now she's a general manager of a WNBA team. Like, amazing.
You've had amazing guests on this podcast. I know. I've seen your lineup. When my mother was a flight attendant, you couldn't be married. This was back in the late 60s. And, you had to go for check-ins on your weight. It was like so like crazy. But yeah, it's like, it's wild. But now there's endless possibilities, and
it's so great.
It is great. And I think that the future for women and women realizing at 50, the strength we have is such an incredible power for not just the other generations, but for men too, and I think that they're part of this discussion, female empowerment and, girl boss and all that it's very real. But I also think women, being able to, integrate with men at a very high level. And that's what sort of empowers us as well, to not be afraid to walk in, like I said, the C-suite, because there will be a lot of corporations where you might be the only female voice, and you want to know that you're going to speak up, be heard, be listened to, and be respected.
And that is difficult. Again, I've interviewed women like that, and, women who have gone up the C-suite. But I remember one of them, she was literally the only woman in the room, like you said.
That's right.
And that was, for her to be the CEO of a big international insurance company was like unheard of. And she did it. She actually just reached out. Like, she took another job. She went to another company, like step up. So it is possible, but you're right. We have to have the strength, the confidence to walk in and be heard.
Yeah. And I've had so many great women over the years who have, opened up their doors and, talked to me and counseled me. And I think that that's been an incredible resource for me as well, because, I think that hearing other people have done it gives sort of a younger woman sort of that, proof of purchase, proof of, okay, if this person can do it, I can do it. And that's sort of, I think when you're young and you're trying to figure things out, the wiser woman who's, in her 50s is definitely somebody who I think people should reach out to and take advice from women, because I think there is a sense of when you're young, you can be stubborn and you know it all and you don't want to listen to your mom, or maybe you listen to your mom's friend. Maybe there's something there too. Like my daughter's friends will come and ask me advice and I will give it to them. And, and it's nice. They sort of see it as a way of like, okay, it's hard. It's hard when it's your mom. But I think that at our age, we have such a great perspective to share and impart to women, but younger than us as well.
And pay it forward. As you get, I always use the analogy of when you were in the 5th grade, remember the 8th graders were so cool. Like you just wanted to be like them. But then you've got to remember the other way, the 3rd graders looking at the 5th grader saying, oh, I'm going to be that someday. So no matter where you are in your life, in your career, there's opportunities to mentor and to be mentored by somebody who's, forged the path and pay it forward, ladies. I'm a big, huge proponent. No matter where you are in your career, there's always somebody behind you that you can help.
Absolutely. And they may one day be your boss.
Yeah. And there you go.
And then there you go. And they'll always be like, wow, she helped me on my way up. And then they soar. And then, maybe they're coming into your industry. And that's really cool too.
And I do want to touch on your career a little bit because you've done some amazing things. And I read that when you had your nighttime show, you
you outperformed SNL several times.
Yes, it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of cool.
I have to say, it was counter programming. It was it was Saturday night, 11:30. Everyone thought that's a terrible time slot. I thought that's a great time slot. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm a woman. I'm a single show. It's not like a comedy troupe. And SNL at the time had a really bad cast. So, it wasn't very, very funny. It wasn't like, really hitting on all of its marks. But yes, we were able to beat them in a few of our episodes. And it was wild. It was such an incredible ride. I did something I didn't know I could do. And I'm glad at the end I didn't know going in how hard it would be to secure all the sponsors, to secure all the investments, clear I was the writer, I was the host. I had a team, of course, but, also had to do all of the, the advertisers, the sponsors, and put it together. And I worked with an incredible executive producer, David Salzman, when we syndicated through. I started with Hearst, and then we went to CBS and Sony, and that's when we beat SNL. And the only reason why I didn't keep it going is because it was a weekly show. And they wanted to put it in daytime. And Meredith Vieira, who obviously is a huge name, she had a daytime show, and they had just, stopped production on that. And I just thought the daytime landscape was not the vibe of this show. So instead of to go forward, I listened to my intuition, that small voice. And I said, I don't think that's going to work for me. So I stepped back, and then I went into producing documentaries. I ended up traveling around the world doing, different small projects and sort of feeding my, adventure, the culture that I love to, go to different countries. And so it was really fun. Entertainment was definitely a good pivot for me because the stories got really dark, but my true love really has been in day in, day out, hard news. So when I had an opportunity to get back to it in 2021, I jumped at it because I knew that it was an important time in our country, and it certainly has been. And then with the release of my book last year, a few weeks before the election, certainly has turned into sort of this next sort of, iteration of our country and where we go from here. But I do love what I do. And like I said, now people can connect with me with, social media, and I share as much as I can. I'm somewhat of an open book because I want my viewers to understand I am just like them. I get up every morning and I have, some days you get full sleep, some days you don't, but you're always trying to, be the best version of yourself that day. And, some days you're really going to knock it out of the park, and other days you're going to go, wow, I was tired. That maybe wasn't the best, but we're human.
You were human. I was robots. Just going to say.
We're human and we're allowed to be human.
Yes. So where can people watch you? If people listening and watching could see you on Newsmax?
Cable. We also have an app where we have our streaming as well. So the Newsmax has an app. You can take us on your phone because a lot of what we're doing is we watch everything on our phones, right? When breaking news is happening. And of course, very active on social media. I'm mostly active on Instagram and Twitter. So at Bianca Della Garza official on Instagram, and on Twitter at Bianca DL Garza. But Newsmax is pretty much everywhere on cable, but the app is really a great place. And people can reach out to me on my website as well and find out more about my book, find out more about me.
Yeah. And we'll put all the links in the show notes. So everybody watching and listening, this was a really, really inspiring episode. Just, embracing life after 50 and paying it forward and just living your life to the fullest. So Bianca, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure and really an honor. I love what you're all about. So I'm happy to be a part of your very, very great caliber of guests.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.